Hey, welcome back to the Success and Significance podcast. Today, we have an amazing treat for you. I got my good buddy, Chris Taylor from the LA Dodgers will be on this episode. And listen, in today's episode, what you're going to hear how he was able to navigate success in the major leagues, but also how he's going to pour out significance. And I am excited for you to unpack the details for this episode of Success and Significance. Let's listen up. All right. Welcome, everybody, back to the Success and Significance podcast. I got a special treat for you today. I've had the honor to know this guy for a couple years now, getting to know him, his family, and his amazing wife. But today we have with us Chris Taylor from the LA Dodgers. He is a ball player. He is a philanthropic guy that is looking to change his community and also to give everything he has to baseball. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining me, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Eric. Happy to be on.
Awesome. So where are you at right now, man? I know that we talked a little bit, but where are you right now?
Yeah, our team's currently in Miami. So we're finishing up our road trip here, and then we'll head back to LA on Thursday.
Awesome. So it's home stretch, almost towards the end of the season. Playoffs are knocking at the door. So I know you guys are excited, tired, and ready to rock and roll. So we're going to jump right into it, man. I know a little bit of your background, how you and I met, but really, Chris, how did you get involved with Rock Solid Foundation and what keeps you coming back, bud?
Yeah, I think it was, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I had the idea to start the CT3 Foundation. One of my best friends, Kyle Profile, he lost his life to osteosarcoma, and he was kind of the motivation for me to, start the foundation and try to help kids with cancer. Is how we started out. And I actually talked to Mrs. Profile, Kyle Profile's mom, and she led me to you, and she said, Kyle really liked this foundation, the Rock Solid Foundation. They build play sets for kids with cancer, and they supply the families with ready bags. And that's how we met. And things just kind of took off from there.
Yep. So you and Mary are a huge supporter of Rock Solid, and we love the CT3 Foundation. So I appreciate what you're doing, man. And y'all been on, I think, a couple builds now, right? And you've packed a bunch of ready bags. So what does that, being on the build site and ready bags, what does that mean to you and Mary?
It's awesome. I think it's one thing to do things or make contributions to foundations, and it's another to, be there in person and develop a relationship with some of the families and kids that are going through this trauma in their lives and seeing it firsthand. And then being able to go build the play sets. We've done 2 with you out in LA area. See the reaction on the kids' faces, the families, and see like the direct impact it has, and actually, be there in person and build the play sets. It's a whole different experience, and it really like changes your perspective on it.
Yeah, it's the see it, touch it, feel it, man. So I'm a huge baseball fan. My son loves the Dodgers. He begged me to wear a LA Dodger hat today, and I actually left it in the car. Frames has a LA Dodger hat on, so he's repping the Dodgers. So huge baseball fan. I played a lot of baseball. My son's playing a lot of baseball, and you've played baseball once before, right? Is it just you just started playing?
Yeah, I dabble.
Yeah, you dabble a little bit in baseball. And I know I've been honored to know a lot of your story of the ups and downs of your career. So share with some of the listeners, explain how do you walk through the extremes ups and downs of just being a professional athlete and a professional baseball player?
That's a good question. I think there's so much failure in this game, and it's something I've learned in my career that it's probably best to, focus on the present moment. And it's easy to get caught up in the results and look backwards. And, for me, I just try to improve each and every day. Get 1% better than yesterday, and that's kind of how I um, focus on the process and not get caught up in the results.
Yeah, no, that's good. So I think that's worth repeating too. 1% better, and how many? So if you focus on getting 1% better each day, there's 365 days a year, right? So it's the small increment. That's right, not 362. I almost said 362. So it's great, but we know that there's 365 days
Hmm.
a year. Um, so when you have found yourself kind of in the throes, that 1%, and you don't feel like you're making progress, how does Chris Taylor navigate that when you feel like you're kind of in a rut or that you're stuck?
Um, I don't know. It kind of ties into what I just said. It's obviously impossible to get better every day, like you just said. Like if you got 1% better every day, there's 365 days a year. The math doesn't really add up. You're naturally going to fall into things that maybe set you back a little bit, and um, I think for me, it's important to have outlets outside of the game. Um, you can get so consumed by baseball, and it can really weigh on you. And a lot of the times, the things that are holding you back are more mental than physical. And so, having those outlets like my family, to have that escape and just step away for a moment, that really helps me, and then kind of allows me to reset and start fresh the next day.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. Just even with me, man, as like an entrepreneur, or any of the listeners, if you're all in, right? So you're all into baseball. I'm all into Rock Solid Foundation. The listeners could be all into whatever it is that they're doing. But I think the significance of that is what you just said, Chris, like learning to step away. And it is, I think a lot of the problems, yes, with baseball or the issues is mindset. But I think even just with business, right before I walked into this podcast, I made a couple comments and it was all mindset driven, right? I think if you listen to yourself more than you speak to yourself, then that's when the problem is. I think you have to speak to yourself more than you listen. Because for me, when I start talking negative, getting down on myself, that's when I really find myself in a rut and it's hard to get out. And I know you have a huge support system at home. I've been able to meet your mom, your dad, Mary. You got a new little guy. How old is little man?
He just turned 10 months yesterday, actually.
Okay. And
Yeah.
seeing just even Chris, seeing the way that you light up when you mention, and I'm, and if we can't say his name, I'll let you say his name.
No, yeah, his name's Theo. We
Yeah.
can say his name. Yeah.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure because I don't want to make Mama Bear angry either. You don't want to mess with Mary. So, but just having that family outlet, man, and seeing the way that you light up. How did things change for you when Theo was born? Maybe like how you played before and how did you play after? How has having Theo changed you?
Um, yeah, I think it's, for me, my whole life pretty much. Baseball was the main priority, and I put everything into it. And obviously, in the last few years, meeting Mary, getting married a couple years ago, then having a kid, your whole perspective changes. And I think any parent will tell you that all of a sudden, baseball wasn't the most important thing in my life. And it's kind of ties into what I talked about before. You have these outlets that allow you to escape and step back and realize there are more important things than, getting a hit in tonight's game. And especially for me, I would say the last couple of years, I haven't really performed up to my expectation. And I don't know how I would have handled those struggles in the past. And, now that I have them, I think it's helped me significantly being able to handle those struggles and continue to press forward and still not let it affect me as a human being, and
Right.
understand there are more important things than baseball. And I'm very lucky to have a beautiful family be able to play for the Dodgers and live my dream every day, and just trying to enjoy the process of it all.
Yeah, I think I've heard this said, and I say it all the time. Like, who you are is more important than what you do. And so, yes, like baseball has been a huge component of your life, but eventually, one day, like Chris Taylor will have to walk away from baseball, right? And so, then what do you have there? Now you're still investing into your baseball, but you've invested just as much into your family, which is I think that's the significance piece. You have the success, right? You're living your dream. You're playing for the LA Dodgers, but now what I hear you saying is like now that your family and Theo has been introduced to, like, that's the significance piece, and that helps you kind of go side by side with both. And I think that's awesome, man. So I know this story a little bit of, and you've shared it with some baseball teams, some of the stuff you've done with Rock Solid. And can you share the story about when you were with Seattle, when you got called up and then some stuff happened and then you landed where you are now? Do you mind sharing that story with the listeners?
Yeah, sure. I got drafted by the Mariners, and I had pretty early success in the minor leagues. I got up to the big leagues in less than 2 years, which is
Oh,
pretty
wow.
fast for a lot of anybody that knows baseball. The minor leagues can be a grind, and it can be a whole, like, it's a process getting through that, going through. You start in rookie ball, and then you have to work your way up to single A, double A, triple A, and then hopefully eventually the big leagues. And I worked up pretty quick. I was very lucky, and I. But then once I got to the Mariners, I had a couple setbacks. I got hurt in spring training, and then I came back from the injury. I didn't have the success I wanted, and got sent back down to AAA, and I was kind of stuck there. Like, I was constantly up and down between AAA and the big leagues for a few years, 2014, 15, and 16. And It was 2016. I got called up. I was doing well in AAA. I got called up, and my first game, I made two errors, and I didn't have a good game at the plate. And just in one game, they sent me right back down and basically told me, like, we can't trust you up here. And for me, that was a huge blow because I had been sent down before, but to do it in that fashion and then hear from them, like, you know, we can't trust you. It really doesn't matter what you do in AAA. Like, we don't
Mm.
trust you up here. That hit me hard. And that was, one of the lowest moments of my career. And I remember driving home in tears. I didn't know what was going to happen from there. And it's funny, I that moment probably was the reason I got traded to the Dodgers. They decided they couldn't trust me, and they traded me to the Dodgers. It turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. I came to the Dodgers, and I got connected with the right people. My hitting coach that I've been hitting with for years, who helped me make a swing change that revamped my entire career. And I've had so many great moments here in LA with this team. Won a World Series. Been an all-star. Basically checked off like every dream I've ever had in baseball. And then on top of that, I met my wife here in LA and have this family. So it's just, you never know what moments are really good or bad. And, obviously in the moment, the lowest point in my career at the time turned out to be the best thing. And, yeah, it's just the beautiful thing about life. You never really know.
Man, that right there is the definition of like your lowest moment to where you're riding home. And I like hearing those words. First of all, like, hey man, all right, you didn't do a good job. You bobbled some ground balls, but the fact that they said like trust, right?
Mhm.
Something that you've been working for ever since you were a kid, and then you were sent down, and then what was the lowest point of your life ended up being the foundational block that you stand on right now in LA, from All Stars, World Series, a beautiful, amazing wife, awesome little man, Theo, right? What was looked as the end was actually the beginning. And I think that that's the significance of anybody listening right now. If you've been through, or if you're in that low moment that Chris was even talking about, that it just look a little bit further, just don't quit, keep going. And then that could be the foundational block to what you stand on to build the rest of your life. So that's huge, man. Every time I hear that story, I get chills because like I think about it, I'm like, well, I probably would have just rolled over, right? But the fact that you were able to do that, man, inspires me. So awesome stuff. All right, we got about 10 minutes left. So I want to talk a little bit about the significance piece of your life. So everybody listening, success, you've marked off all the career stuff that you want to do with the Dodgers. And you still got more left. So it's not like you're riding off into the sunset right now, man. So, but the significance piece, you started CT3 Foundation. You're doing amazing stuff with that. Why is pouring out significance to the community? I know you do a lot for LA, and then you come back to Virginia to do a lot. So why is that important to you?
Yeah. So, I've been blessed to, as we talked about, I play for the Dodgers and I live my dream every day. And I've been blessed with this platform, right? And, was my purpose really to play baseball and entertain people for a living, or is it to use that platform and make a impact on things bigger than baseball? And I think when you're given this platform, I think it does come with a responsibility. And for me, I think it was important to be able to use it and help people with whatever, or just make an impact on things that are bigger than this game. And so that was the whole reason I started the CT3 Foundation. And and it also has just it's changed my perspective on the game as well, and made me realize the struggles that come with baseball are not the end of the world.
That's good, man. And Mary's super involved too, though, right? So Mary helps guide the ship when you're out in Miami. What's it like being side by side with Mary doing that type of stuff?
Yeah. Mary definitely is involved. She has put in probably more time and energy into it than I have. Oftentimes I get consumed in the game, and it's hard for me to put all my energy into it. And she's been there, kind of running the ship, and been so thankful for her. I think a lot of times she has a lot going on as well, and it's been it hasn't been easy, but she's had such a big impact, and our foundation wouldn't have the success or make the impact it has without her. And she's been my partner through it all, and oftentimes like held it together.
Yep, she's awesome, man. All right, so last question: what does success look like for Chris Taylor?
I think it's just being happy with where you're at in life, right? And for me, if I'm putting everything I have into my family and my job, and I can look at myself in the mirror and know that I did that, then I think that's success for me. And
That's
understanding that I can live with myself at the end of the day, and whatever the results are in life, the cards will fall where they may. But just knowing I put everything into it, and just being content.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, Chris, I appreciate the name of the podcast is Success and Significance. And just even as we were naming the podcast, like you came to mind just because you have fought your what off to be where you're sitting right now, to be a part of one of my opinion, the best baseball team, and all the listeners can have different opinions, but you're with one of the best baseball dynasties You have worked your butt off ever since grade school to sit where you are. You've gotten the World Series, you've gotten All-Star, and you are successful. And this, I've said this many times about you, Chris, is you're a phenomenal ball player, but you're a better human, because I examine the heart first. And Chris, I see your heart, I see Mary's heart, and I am stoked and honored that we get to partner in this thing to just try to make significance in this world. So I appreciate you being on the show. I know that you're busy. So best of luck in Miami. And when this episode comes out, we'll know if you guys have been able to grind and get to the World Series. So hopefully, fingers crossed with that too, man. So I appreciate you coming. Everybody, as always, I appreciate you listening. This is the Success and Significance Podcast. I'm your host, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Chris, thank you so much for being here, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Always fun.